Today, we're gonna make these ultimate sausage and egg stuffed biscuits for an easy breakfast on the go. Oftentimes, breakfast is a meal we wanna skip, but there is nothing better than an easy recipe that you can take with you when you leave the house. And if you can make it once at the beginning of the week and it'll feed your family all week long, it's even better. So let's talk about the ingredients that we're gonna use for this recipe. We've got large eggs, ground breakfast sausage, some sharp cheddar cheese, and we've got ingredients to make biscuits. Now, the ultimate shortcut for this recipe is to use canned biscuits from the refrigerated section of your grocery store. Semi-shortcut is to use a biscuit mix. I'm gonna make my own biscuits from scratch here on the video today because I want you to see how easy it is. So the first thing that we're gonna do is ground our sausage right here on the stovetop over medium-high heat. And to do this, I'm using a ground meat tool. I use this for my ground beef as well. If you don't have one, I'm gonna link one in the post. This tool is a lifesaver. Now this is a whole pound of sausage, and for the recipe you probably only need a half pound. I go ahead and cook that whole pound because I can save what I don't use and maybe use it for a baked potato topping or something like that later on in the week. Another shortcut is you could use pre-cooked sausage crumbles, and then you don't have to cook the sausage at all. When your sausage is brown, we're just gonna move it off of the stove and we're gonna get ready to make our scrambled eggs. So I've got about a half tablespoon of butter that's melted in a small cast iron pan. And in this bowl, I have 3 large eggs that I've beaten. And because we want some really light, fluffy eggs, I'm gonna add just a splash of half and half cream to those eggs. And we're gonna beat that cream right in there. Now you're gonna wanna cook these eggs on a very low heat. And before the eggs even finish cooking, we're gonna take them right off of that heat. And that really is the key to having a soft, silky, fluffy scrambled egg, is to cook it low and slow. If you get too much in a hurry and you cook it too fast, those eggs are gonna end up kind of rubbery and hard. Now that we've made our scrambled eggs and browned our sausage, we're ready to make our biscuits. So if you're gonna do canned biscuits, all you gotta do is open that can and you're ready to go. If you wanna do semi-homemade, then you can use your biscuit mix. So this is where you're gonna go off on your own here and follow the instructions on your mix and get those biscuits made. If you want to make homemade biscuits with me, this is how I do it. I use 2 cups of all-purpose flour, and then I've got a teaspoon of sugar. I've got some baking powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and about a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. And we're going to put those dry ingredients in this large mixing bowl together. And we're just gonna mix them up. Now you could sift them together if you wanted to, but fluffing them with a fork is really all that's necessary. Now the next part is where the magic happens. This is the key. I am going to grate the butter into the biscuits. And what we're gonna use is frozen butter. And it's important that the butter be really cold when you bake your biscuits, because when it melts, it leaves little air pockets and that air pushes the biscuit up. So we're gonna grate that butter in. It's gonna be in nice little pieces that are gonna mix well into the flour without having to be cut into the flour, and you're gonna be ready to go. Then you're gonna wanna add some half and half cream. You can also do buttermilk if you want buttermilk biscuits. But whole milk or half and half cream will do just fine. And then we're gonna mix that in and add 1 beaten egg. Now we don't wanna over mix here. We just kinda want the ingredients to be blended together. We're gonna continue to mix it on our floured surface. So when your dough starts to look like this, we call this a shaggy dough, you're good to go. So now that that biscuit dough has come together, we're going to take a little flour and we're going to flour the surface that we're going to roll our biscuits or knead our biscuits out on. We're not actually going to roll them with a rolling pin. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to get that dough. See, it's not even really formed into a ball yet, it's in separate pieces. And that's okay, that's how you want it to be at this stage. And what I'm going to do is I don't want to handle it a lot. We want to have soft, tender biscuits, and overworking that, the gluten in the flour can make it tough. So I'm just going to kind of roll it in the flour, kind of bring it together, and I'm going to mash it down. I'm going to fold it over and I'm going to do the same thing. 2 times. It should be all together now. And then if you have a bench knife like this, or you can use like a large chopping knife, what we're going to do is we're going to cut this dough into 4 pieces like this, and then we're going to stack, and we're just going to mash once, fold it over, mash again, bring it into a square. See, we're not touching it a lot. We don't really care if there's, you know, segments like this. We're not worried about that right now. And we're going to cut into 4 pieces again. We're going to layer, going to smash it, fold it over, smash it again. And you'll notice each time that you do this, your biscuits are starting to get smoother and smoother. But we're not doing a lot of kneading. We're not doing a lot of working of the dough. And then you can also start to see some layers or striations in your dough, and this makes for a really light and fluffy biscuit. I'm going to remove my knife aside, and I'm going to mash these out with my hand. And I'm going to make them a lot flatter than I would usually make them. If I'm just going to make a biscuit that I'm going to eat with honey or a little butter, maybe jelly on its own, I'm going to want them to be about this thick when I cut them out. But for this recipe, we're going to have a little biscuit on the bottom. We're going to have some egg and bacon or egg and sausage and cheese in the middle, and a little more biscuit on top. So we don't want it to have too much bread. So I'm going to mash this out just a little flatter than I normally would. Okay. And I'm going to need 12 pieces. So I'm going to try to cut, you don't have to be perfectly even, but 12 pretty close to even pieces out of my biscuit dough. All right, so now we're ready to make these stuffed biscuits. And we're going to take 1 biscuit piece and we're going to kind of stretch it out. Not completely thin, but thinner than it was, okay? And then we're going to take just a regular spoon, probably about a teaspoon, and we're going to do a scoop of eggs, and we're going to do a little sausage, and you can mash it down into the dough so it kind of stays put a little better, and a little cheese. Okay, so we've stuffed the bottom of our biscuit, and then we're going to take another biscuit piece, pull it out flat too. We're going to lay it on top of the first. I'm going to throw those escapees over. You can kind of put them back in your biscuit if you want, or you can just put them back in the roll. And then we're going to go around the edges, and we're going to pinch the edges of the 2 biscuits closed together. Tuck in any kind of stuffings that want to come out, but you see we've pinched the edges of the biscuits together to make kind of like a pocket. All right, and then to fit them in our jumbo muffin pan that we've already greased, what we're going to do is we're going to take the edges, we're going to fold them over to the middle like this, so it kind of makes a little ball. We're not worried about perfection here. The bottom can even still, you know, not even be really smashed together and have creases. That's okay. With just like this, we're going to pop it in that muffin tin. So if you're using your canned biscuits, you'll want to cut those biscuits in half, especially if you're using the jumbo or the grand size. You'll want to cut those biscuits in half and then work with each of the pieces to make your stuffed biscuit. If you're doing your biscuit mix, you've got more control over the pieces of biscuit that you make to work with. So we have all of our biscuits stuffed and we're ready to pop them in a 425 oven just for 15 minutes and then we'll be ready to eat. All right, so these stuffed breakfast bombs are out of the oven, and just take a look at these. Light, fluffy biscuits filled in the center with cheese and scrambled egg and sausage. This is an ultimate breakfast to go. So let's talk about some serving suggestions, because I want your recipe to be a success, not just in the kitchen, but all the way to the table. So you can double this recipe if you've got lots of mouths to feed and make 12 of these stuffed biscuits. You can put them in a zip top bag. You can wrap them up in foil or in plastic wrap. They can be reheated individually in the oven, the air fryer, or the microwave, whatever works best for your crew. So if you like this recipe, don't forget to subscribe, not just to the YouTube channel, but to southerndiscourse.com, where I'm cooking up the Southern food you know and love. There's weekly meal plans where we're putting the recipes together so that you always know what to make for dinner, and access to my new series, Dinner with Friends. You're not going to want to miss that. From the kitchen to the table, I've got you covered.